Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Once the largest library in the ancient world, which contained works of all the great thinkers up till that time, writers of antiquity, including Homer, Plato, Socrates, and many, many more, had everything they did with the Library of Alexandria, which was in northern Egypt. And sadly, 2,000 years ago, it burned. It burned to the ground. Some theorize that Caesar had a role in it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It was gone, and we lost all of that information. Certainly the literary works is, we're certainly a loss. I'm not gonna downplay the arts, but there was scientific information in there as well, and people have theorized that had that still been around, that Columbus would not have sailed to the New World. He probably would have flown here. This really kind of leads into our conversation today with Mark J. Carter, who is the creator of Idea Climbing. He's got a book coming out, same name, Idea Climbing, and just the whole notion that ideas and information, unless we're sharing them, really go nowhere. If essentially, if we don't share them, they go nowhere. And in time, they're lost to the world. So anyhow, Mark, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Frank.
Let's jump into your journey. I know in chapter 6, you really talk about when you moved to Chicago back in 2002, and you, like many of us who moved to a new city, knew very, very few people. 2002, that's 5 years before LinkedIn. There was some MySpace, maybe, but you made it work, and you kind of share that story and how the whole notion of idea climbing came to be. And
yeah, absolutely. In 2002, when I moved to Chicago, I was in my early 20s. I wanted to be Tony Robbins, so I was a results coach or life coach. Pick the title that you want. And in Michigan, where I went to college at Eastern Michigan University near Ann Arbor, I never went to a formal networking event. Technically, I was networking. I just didn't know it. I got my jobs through my friends in a business fraternity and all that stuff. So I was technically doing it, but it was unconscious competence. And in 1999, I started interviewing successful people because I'm just curious about success. And when I moved into 2002, I realized I was cold calling in Michigan to speak to high schools and colleges. And I realized very quickly that a 20-something-year-old results coach cold calling colleges and high schools in Chicago was not going to work in any way, shape, or form. So I just sought out people that talked about networking. And this is how I got my job, became CEO, started my company, interviewed them. And then what happened was I built a system to get referrals and build business. And I still remember the first CEO that said it. He's like, "How did you get introduced to me?" And I told him it was a heavy hitter, apparently. And he said, "Forget about this results coaching stuff. If you can teach my team how to get referrals, I'll pay you for that. That's worth paying for." So I went down a whole journey of how to get referrals and kept interviewing people. Then it was social media came out. I cracked the code on that. Same thing. If you can tell me how to get 100 people in a room by using this new Facebook thing, we'll pay for that. So I was a social media consultant that just kept iterating. And where idea climbing landed was a few years ago, I realized because of a mentor, all these interviews I'd been compiling. One of my mentors said, "If you want to take the time to do it, you have a book." And I found my first interview was a book, February of 1999, my first 2 formal interviews. And I just scoured through, I don't even know how many paper notebooks, and then my YouTube station. Now I'm podcasting. But idea climbing just came out of people sharing their ideas with me, and I could learn from their success. I could learn from their failure. And now I can teach other people how to do that. So you don't have to go it alone if you have a big idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's your story was interesting in the book. Well, I mean, your story in general. But, it really started out with you asking for help from people,
Mm-hmm.
and them giving you help, and then you kind of paying it back. I took a different look on that. I'm not challenging you, but I look at what you put together, and you were reaching out to people, and you were sharing with people a vision, and then asking for them for help. And in the moment, it kind of felt like, okay, I'm giving them nothing, but I'm asking for something in return. But I really look at it as, in those moments, you kind of gave them hope of something. Hey, I've got this vision and I need your help. And I think that's just a powerful thing to be able to say to somebody, here's something out there. And
Oh, yes. You're talking about the Young Entrepreneurs Alliance.
yeah, well,
I wanted to find a group of I went to all these entrepreneur groups, and at least half the room was bankers, they were people selling to entrepreneurs.
right.
And I said, there's got to be something for young entrepreneurs that is only young entrepreneurs. No solicitors, no multi-level, nothing. Just entrepreneurs owning their own business, trying to figure everything out. And back then, even the Chamber of Commerce said, nope, we don't have anything. But people started saying, if you start it, let me know. If you start it, let me know. And that really was the hope that it gave them, as people started to realize, you know what? Well, I don't want to do this myself. I'll support it.
Yeah.
And one of my friends, and then everything started to fall together. A web designer, in hindsight, it was probably a $20,000 or $30,000 website at the time. I did not know that. I didn't know what I had. Came through. A venue said, I'll guarantee you'll never lose money. A mentor running another entrepreneur group. You shouldn't do it today, but at the time he gave me a mailing list. So all these people jumped in and I made it happen. And I think ignorance is bliss, because I was so young. I didn't know it was supposed to be difficult. I was like, of course I have a venue and sponsors and speakers and mailing lists and a website. And I look back on it and went, oh my God. I mean, I was grateful, but wow. And it was only because I was sharing a big idea and telling people I wanted to collaborate with them.
And so you built this entrepreneur organization. I'm trying to piece it all. I guess the acronym for it is YAY, right?
Young Entrepreneurs Alliance.
Yeah. Or yeah. YEA. How did that dovetail into idea climbing, or I guess did idea climbing come first?
No, idea climbing was a long ways off from the Young Entrepreneurs Alliance.
Okay.
I filed the trademark probably 2016, 2017, just to protect the concept, took the domain names. And then a few years ago, when I started writing the book, I became my first client, because the book wasn't written based on my experience. It was based on what I learned in interviews and from the notes that I had.
Right.
And then it became a life of its own. My big idea with idea climbing was, now I'm going to publish a book and make it happen this time around, which I did. Now it's moving on to the next big idea of growing the business and starting collaborative communities. But back then, no, I was flying by the seat of my pants.
We all were when we were in our 20s. I watch my kids, and it's like they have all the answers in the world. They think they do, and they just haven't gotten kicked in the head yet, or metaphorically speaking. So I mean, I guess share the notion of idea climbing, and if sharing, just how it all works. I know you've got the book, and share on.
Yeah, how it all, for the book, it's at ideaclimbingbook.com for people listening. That'll take you straight to Amazon. And the subtitle is How to Create a Support System for Your Next Big Idea. And that's who the book was really written for. Is someone saying, I have an idea, start a business, start a mastermind group, new product or service, write a book, not to feel lonely and think they have to do it alone. Because so many people, especially entrepreneurs, think it's, top of the hill or dead on the side. It's all about blood, sweat, and tears, when it really doesn't have to be. It's just a matter of, you need a method to your madness. I call it a success blueprint, which is what the idea climbing book gives you, with the 8 pillars of idea climbing based on the success stories. And every chapter has a success story in it. So don't take my word for it. Here's what Home Depot, Michael Dell, Richard Branson, people like that did. And it gives them, for what you said, more of the hope that they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
and it tells them how to reach out to people, how to create mentoring experiences, which I think is huge, that so many people think mentoring is a young kid and an old gray-haired person sharing the secrets of life, where I think mentoring experiences can happen at any age. And a
Oh,
50-year-old could learn from a 20-year-old and vice versa.
no, I totally agree. I just got off a Zoom call with a young woman, 25 years old, who's helping me pull together videos. And I'm not totally stupid, but there's just a lot of little things that I didn't get when I was younger, right? I mean, it wasn't around. And so we're not, I look at my kids and, they've kind of grown up with social media and YouTube. And so I'm off making a living doing what I'm doing, and they're kind of sitting around on a Saturday afternoon or in the evening while I'm trying to, bill clients or whatever else I have to do. And they're just learning things that I'm not having the opportunity to learn. And that's a huge difference than where we were in the 60s and 70s, when experience really ruled the day. Hey, I've been working at the steel foundry for years, and I've got experience working here, and you're the young buck coming in. You're going to learn from me. And now I see the script being flipped, right? Where, the young buck has got a lot to teach the older people, who, especially the ones who haven't kept up. And I don't want to be, I don't want to be that old codger that's like, I don't want to learn anything. I want to be, hey, I want to learn something. I want to learn something new. Teach me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Definitely.
Well, that's you and that's me. I don't think that's normal in talking with people.
No, I remember the first college classes I spoke to in Chicago when I would bring up mentoring or networking. And to me, it like I said, it was second nature. As soon as I struck it on my own, of course I'm going to interview successful people. Why the heck wouldn't I?
Right.
And of course, networking. Of course, everyone builds relationships. The first undergraduate college classes looked at me like, I don't even know, like I was some speaking Chinese. Like, what? And I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't normal. Maybe this is something different.
Well, college is really geared for getting a job for the most part. I know some schools have entrepreneurial programs, but if you stop and you look at, well, I've sent 3 kids to college, part of that experience or part of that communicating to people or the attracting people to a particular university or a particular department is, hey, we get our people jobs, and it's still that way now. It's less so now than it was, but looking back when I was in college, that was the experience. Hey, you do this, learn how to write a memo so you can get a job. Get a job. And they don't talk about networking because they're talking about, hey, and networking is important for getting a job, but hey, you get a job and you're going to be in a cubicle and you're going to get to know the person to the left and to the right. And that's all you need. And that's not true.
Well, no, what's crazy is that especially when they have guest speakers, but even professors, and I remember this in college, they talk about how important networking is. No, but there's unless I completely have missed something, I've never seen a college with a course specifically on networking. They'll tell you have to do it. They just don't tell you how. And I think that's crazy.
Well, you know why that is? My opinion.
No.
My opinion is because they don't know themselves. Because if you stop and think about your average college professor, right? They're kind of in that insulated world of, I show up on campus and I teach my classes. Yeah, they get out and they need to kind of somewhat network to get research done and get papers done, but they don't do the hardcore networking like you did. It is very foreign. So all they can say is, yeah, it's a good idea. Even when I was out, I started my career in public accounting. There was lip service to it, but nobody really knew how to do it. Hey, you need to get out there and do it, but nobody really knew how to do it. And I think that's still the same way today, because you have a lot of people in the sales world who are teaching their sales staff to get on LinkedIn and just start hammering people,
Oh my God. Yeah.
Somebody's perpetuating that myth, if you will, that this is the way to do it. And it's not. So, let's talk about the book and I guess your bigger vision for idea climbing. I mean, yeah, people make money selling books. You're Mark J. Carter. You're not Bill Clinton.
Nope.
So, so you're not going to make millions, or trying to think
No,
of
I'm
another author. I mean, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, what do they get? $500,000, $1 million just to say, yeah, I'll write the book. So what's the bigger picture for this? One of the things you talked about in your young entrepreneur thing, you wish you had monetized it all those years ago, right? And you didn't.
I was too young.
Yep. Well, you missed an opportunity, and that's okay. But you're ready now, and what's happening now?
What I've actively started doing now that the book is out is doing what I call keynote conversations. So it's the idea of sharing ideas in a room. It's a fireside chat on the stage, but the audience is engaged from the start. So everyone's sharing ideas, asking questions, and you're building actionable ideas. Like the last one was how to build and motivate happy teams. So there's a focus for the conversation, definitely. And everyone gets to add to it, not just the expert on stage with me. So those are going to be monetized quickly because like keynote speaking, keynote conversations, it's just one word difference. Meeting planners get it. Okay, that makes sense. It's easy to understand. Going ahead, I want to be the Intel chip for organizations. I don't want to be Dell computers. I want to be the plug-in for if we want to build a community or help our employees out or help them grow, we're going to use idea climbing. We're going to have keynote conversation events. We'll have online courses. And I'll facilitate that for organizations, especially privately held companies, because entrepreneurs act differently than corporate people do. So it's mostly going to be targeted at privately held companies, and then also other groups I could see it going into groups like Vistage, entrepreneur organization, places like that are saying we need something fresh, a fresh methodology. We've been doing the same thing for 20 years. How can we shake it up a little bit and still add value to our membership? That's where I see it going with the bigger picture.
Can you walk us through an example of, this in action? I don't need company names or anything like that. That's not appropriate, but hey, here's what we did. Here were the outcomes. Here are the number of participants, things like that.
Yes. The first one post-pandemic, B2B privately held services company. And their problem was we've got a list and we've tried traditional marketing. And it's just something's not hitting. And we've gone through 3 marketing people already. We don't know what to do. And we focused on what I mentioned, keynote conversations became, let's get these people in a room. So the purpose of the event is it's a marketing vehicle. It's not a moneymaker. In fact, the company paid for the room, the drinks, the food. Invite them and take some time and send personal invitations also to your clients, potential clients, and referral sources.
Okay. So not to interrupt, these are, when you say people, these are not necessarily employees.
In this case, no.
Okay.
So they invited them, and what happened was if they could shake hands and have, because there's a networking before, networking after, he could have 10 or 15, 20 different conversations with important people,
right?
Instead of having 10 or 20 different Zoom meetings and realizing, well, I didn't need to have 15 of these. And from that, business and referrals have started coming out because they are adding value to the lives of the people on their list. They're not just saying, hey, you knock on the door. Do you want to buy? Okay, it's been 6 months. Do you want to buy? It's been 6 months. Do you want to buy? It was, let me add value to you and let me introduce all of you to each other to share ideas in a room and help each other walk out with actionable advice. And it was the 2 of them that we've done so far were huge hits. Okay.
And that helped them penetrate that list.
Yes.
More or less.
Exactly.
The people who were interested in it. You're never going to get 100% of everything. Okay.
No.
Interesting. What are the types of companies you're looking to meet with to do this? I get it. Well, I don't want to say anybody because
No.
What do you envision?
Right now, it's privately held, business to business service firms.
Okay.
excluding which technically can be B2B. It's not things like manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, just medical equipment, nothing that gets that highly niched and huge sales, more of consulting. I could see law offices, places like that are in the
Okay.
B2B services industry. And they're saying, I've got the audience, I don't know what to do with it.
Okay. So essentially, this idea climbing is a targeted, facilitated networking gathering of some sort.
Yes, that's the relationship marketing side of things. It's all about
Yeah.
the relationships.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. Where's the best place for people to get a hold of you?
The best place for the book is ideaclimbingbook.com. The best place for me is markjcarter.com.
Okay. All right. I'll get that in the show notes. Well, I really appreciate your time coming on the program today. This has been helpful.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I've learned a lot about it, so thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.